Hello, beautiful business owners. Shay here, and I just love how many books there are out there in the world on business, don't you? Go to the business section of Barnes & Noble, and you will be totally overwhelmed with the amount of good advice that there is out there about business. So here's what I wanted to do today, okay? I have had the privilege of getting some leadership and mentorship and being handed some like total business changing books that have really had a huge impact on my business as I've built social squares over the years and myself personally. I'm a reader. I love reading, but I don't consume endlessly. I don't just like consume all the business books. I'm very selective about the books that I choose to read. And I'm telling you that because what I'm going to share with you today is my number one list of the 5 best business books I have ever read and the impact that they've had on my business. And these are like the best of the best, okay? These are not obscure book titles. These are like, if you are only going to read 5 business books this year, and if this is like a good fit for where you're at in business, then this is where to focus your time, okay? There's tons of books out there on business, and I'm just going to like cut right to the chase and tell you the best ones to read, right? So who wouldn't love that? Ready? Okay. 5 best books on business I have ever read and why. Some of these I have read more than once, including this first one, okay? Book number 1 is Good to Great by Jim Collins. I have read this book twice this year alone. What this book does is it takes a very data-driven approach to discovering what the difference is between companies that are just good and companies that see astronomical success, okay? I loved Jim Collins' approach to this. It was very thorough, it was very data-driven, it was very numbers-based. A lot of research went into this book, and a lot of research went into really definitively distinguishing the factors that differentiated companies that were just good and companies that just saw insane success, and what it was about those companies, what it was that they did, what it was about their leadership. Fascinating. Enjoyed this book so much. Okay. Read this one. Everyone, any business owner could benefit from this book. And I'll tell you, not all these books are for everyone, but this one for sure. If you're a business owner, pick this one up. It just was fantastic, especially if you lead a team. All right. So Good to Great by Jim Collins, number 1. Number 2, this is the old faithful, Traction. So Traction is by Gino Wickman. And I've read this book also multiple times. I've probably read it through cover to cover twice. And then every once in a while, I'll go back and listen on audio to a certain chapter that would be really helpful and that I just need like a good reminder of how to go about doing something. This book is great for someone who's in the early stages of building a team. I don't remember how I was introduced to this book, but it came at the perfect time when I was hiring, I think, my 2nd, 3rd, 4th employee or contractor, like really part of my team, and just had no idea how to manage them. Like, how do I mobilize more than just myself to get things done for the company? I have always, since the very beginning, no matter how small my team is, I really want to run this company, Social Squares, with excellence. And I want to run it as if we were like a Fortune 500 company in terms of like my team leadership, our communication, the way that I coach employees, the accountability culture that we create. We don't just like play it fast and loose. Like we have an accountability culture. We have core values. We have a mission. Like I've really tried to grow in that area and do that from the very beginning. And Traction was really the book that helped me do that. And it really, when I say help, that really was what it felt like. It felt like some business mentoring. It felt like someone handing me a roadmap for how to build a great company with the use of a team of contractors. So just fantastic. I've got so many things like underlined in it. There's still things that I come back and reference. Just fantastic. Like, I do think every business owner that is going to hire someone should read this book. Okay. Traction. Read it multiple times. Okay. Book number 3 is $1 Trillion Coach by Bill Campbell. I'm sorry. It's by Eric Schmidt along with Jonathan Rosenberg, but it is about the leadership style of Bill Campbell, who was, the sort of coach and business mentor to like every big name business owner that you've ever heard of. All of Silicon Valley's best and brightest were coached by this man. And his relational style and coaching style was really unique and really raw and really unpolished. But he really had a way of connecting with people and motivating people and really coaching people to do their best work, believing in people, enabling people, holding them accountable, in a very like unique and rough around the edges, personal kind of way. So this was a fascinating book. I read this through cover to cover once, and then I've gone back through and referenced a lot of it. I've kind of taken a lot of notes for myself on how to implement that within my own team. Just a really good book. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it because I don't really like geek out on tech companies or anything like that. But, Bill Campbell's leadership style was just kind of like a breath of fresh air. And you really see how exactly he coached all of these incredible people towards excellence in life and in business. So awesome book. Definitely recommend that you pick up this one, specifically if you run a team. If you don't run a team, I don't know that this is going to be super helpful for you. But if you do find yourself managing a team, leading a team, coaching and investing in individual employees for their benefit, for their professional growth, and for the growth of the company, then this is really, really a helpful book. So $1 Trillion Coach by Eric Schmidt. That's book number 3. Okay. Next book that I've read more than one time, one of my all-time favorite business books, is Deep Work by Cal Newport. Now, you've probably heard of this book. I'm assuming it's very popular in the online business space, but it's fantastic. I think what my biggest takeaways from this book really had to do with how important it is that we dedicate, a few things, but how important it is that we really dedicate extended periods of time to really work through and the most important things in our business, like how to move away from doing distracted, disjointed work. Like I'm going to dive in here for a little bit, then I'm going to dive in here for a little bit. I'm going to let emails interrupt me. I'm going to let Slack interrupt me. I'm going to let, whatever it is, today's to-do list interrupt me. And how important it is to really discipline ourselves to do what he calls deep work, or like small 90-minute periods of deep mental work. What I thought was interesting about this book and what I appreciated, a few things that I appreciated. One was he gives you permission to turn off the noise. Like he really kind of outlines and introduces you to some very high performers that literally don't even answer email or are not on social media or, just aren't doing all the things that we've kind of come to assume that we have to do. I really appreciated that he introduces you to some very successful people that are just like, nah, I'm just going to do deep work. I'm just going to do the most meaningful work, and I'm not going to do all those things that they say that I should do. And I really appreciated that. I also appreciated that he really outlines a lot of the psychology behind how hard it is for us, especially in this day and age, to do really focused work and to push through mentally when things get hard. So for example, you might say, this morning, I'm going to work on my 2021 Q4 goals. And you're going to set aside some time to do that. And your brain kind of gets to a certain point of fatigue, especially early on, like now when we're just so distracted and we're just used to like small bite-sized communication. And now more than ever, your brain kind of hits that fatigue point pretty early on. And you'll find yourself, you maybe dove in for 20 minutes, but then you'll find yourself just like reaching for your phone or wanting to check email real quick. And like, it's funny how reactionary it is and like how impulse driven it is that you want to like, oh, okay, that's enough. I'm going to back away. That's enough deep work for me. I can't, my brain hurts from thinking. And how important it is for us to train our brains to like really push through and fight through the distraction. And that really is when the best ideas happen. That's when the most clarity happens. There's just really important work that's done when we train our brains to be able to focus on solving a problem and really deep diving into something for a more extended period of time. But then he also talks about the limits on that and when we need to give our brain a break. And he talks about it from, like a scientific perspective, what's happening in your brain, and how to kind of really best harness the power of your brain. And then knowing what the side effects are of jumping from one thing to the next, and the results or the impact that distraction has on you really producing really high quality work. So as I'm talking about this, I feel like I need to read it again. So maybe I'm going to make it a third read through, but really great book, Deep Work by Cal Newport, one of my most favorites, most highly recommended business books. And then the last one was actually a surprise to me how much I enjoyed this. I didn't set out to read this year, but my husband actually picked it up and I was curious. And so I read it and I really loved it. And I'll tell you why. And that is Marie Forleo's Everything is Figure Outable. Marie Forleo is awesome. I don't follow her super closely, so I was a little bit of a late adopter. Maybe everybody else has already read this book. I did know about it. I knew it was a New York Times bestseller, but I hadn't read it until it was on my bookshelf, and then I picked it up. And I really was encouraged and inspired by it. And I think the reason why I was really encouraged and inspired by it is that I'm in a season of business where I don't have the answers. Early on, I mean, gosh, I've been doing this like commercial styled stock creation and running a commercial styled stock business for at least 8 years now. It's been a really long time. In the early stages, I could figure out pretty easily what I needed to do. I kind of knew the roadmap and I kind of knew how to get us there almost intuitively, whether it was marketing decisions or product development decisions or creative decisions. But the longer I've been a business owner and the more I've lived through needing to innovate and iterate and pivot, and the more business problems have gotten more complex and risks are bigger and everything has more zeros attached to it and there's more people involved. As I've gotten into that season of business, I run up against a lot of things that I just don't know the answer to. I don't know the best way to do something. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to get us to this next point. And that can be even just on a very practical level. Like early on when things are simpler, like I was able to execute on a lot of things. And now there's a lot of things that happen within the ecosystem of social squares that like, I don't know how to do that. And now I have other people that are specialized in that kind of thing. So you run into more areas where you're like, I actually don't know how to do that. I really don't know how to do that thing or run that area or make that decision. And that can be very, very overwhelming, especially if you consider yourself pretty competent and capable. So in being in that season of business where I'm hitting a lot of things where I'm like, you know what? I need help. I don't know the answer. This feels overwhelming. I don't know what the solution is. This book just kind of came at a good time and was a good, encouraging, kick in the pants reminder that everything is figure outable. There is a way out. You can solve this problem. You can, you can take the next steps. The sky is not falling. It is figure outable. It doesn't matter how big it feels, how big the problem feels, it is figure outable. Her stories in here are really inspiring, and I really appreciated how much she highlighted a few things. One, just like the difficulty of her own journey. I thought that was really refreshing to hear the difficulty of her own journey, and also very encouraging to hear how wandering her path was that led her to where she's at today. It was not like a very straightforward linear path. It really wound around and felt confusing and felt frustrating and felt overwhelming. And seeing her weave that together was awesome. I also really appreciated how many other women and other people's stories she highlighted in there. People that have just overcome incredible odds. to do what it is they wanted to do, not necessarily business related. I don't think that this has to be a business book, although it has business implications. But I really think it could be for anybody who just needs a little bit of a kick in the pants and some encouragement that you can do it. Whatever it is, you can do it. So that book was really personally encouraging to me, and I would totally pass it along to anybody who's trying to make some changes in their life and be encouraged by what other women have overcome. And hearing that kind of perspective really helps you to be like, man, if she overcame those odds and figured it out, certainly I can figure this out. So that's it. My 5 book recommendations. I have read all of these books multiple times except for this one. Highly, highly recommend all of these books. These 4 are for sure on my all-time best, most important business books that you can read. So there it is, guys. You no longer need to go wander through the Barnes & Noble business section, because that is the list of the best books that I have come across that have been recommended to me, and they're all just like really heavy hitters. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you populated your Audible cart or filled your Amazon cart with those recommended titles if they were a good fit for you. I hope that that's a blessing to your business. I'll let you know if I come across anything else awesome, but right now I'm realizing I need to go back and reread Deep Root work. So I'll be doing that, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.